na sumubok silang lumaban. Like for example, ako kino-comment ko talaga si Wise doon sa nangyaring laban na yun. Kasi tama mo sa kanya na, guys, ilaban natin to. But then again, ang tanong, too much ba yung superstar trigger sa side ng Echo?
Parang ganun eh. Kasi siguro dahil din nakapag-warm up sila kanina nung sa series before RSG. 5-game series yun na talagang na-activate yung confidence ng mga players nila, especially after that win. Ang isang bagay din na kailangan i-take note dito is a mental battle. Hindi lang siya basta-basta about the draft. Yung parang drafting naman ng dalawang teams, hindi naman one-sided over the other. Talagang nagpe-play out na lang kung sino yung mas solido yung mental fortitude. One very notable factor dito sa nakikita na, pansinin nyo yung ating draft, naban agad yung Faramis. Game number 1, ito rin yung naging resulta para sa Echo, pero first pick nila yung Glue. Troubleshooting agad yung Blacklist. It's going to be the ban on the Glue. So nagbago ngayon yung formula din ng Echo, ban bigla yung Valentina.
Oh, this is kind of like a Haka-V type ng bans. And meanwhile, Glue naman, matanong kita Santi, pinag-usapan natin to kanina, kailangan bang ilabas ni Edward, Agent Zero, yung mala-slashers type ng mga hero? Kasi yung Glue kanina, parang medyo, in a way, may pagka-passive ng dating.
I think it's time. Ilabas na yung Benedetta, yung
Benedetta, Arlot.
Yung kumbaga, talagang palag kung palag.
Open yung Joy
Ay, actually,
Joy.
Joy, oo. Kaso baka agawin ng, ayun eh, agawin na ng Echo.
Tingin ko kasi, well, if you're looking at the history of Blacklist, hindi sila nag-Franco. So baka Kaja yung unahin niya ng Blacklist.
Kaja.
Kaja Arlot.
Ang ibon.
Or Kaja Fredrin.
Kaja
Pero din yung
Fredrin.
Eve na ginagamit din ng Blacklist. So
Actually,
sila mag-Kaja Eve.
Hindi rin nagkakadita kasi halos yung Blacklist eh. So, open pa nga yung kadita ni Sanji. Tapos, pwede mong kunan ng Franco or Kaja. So, very in favor yung first phase ng draft to the side of Echo.
Parang ang daming hero din kasi na kailangan i-consider ng agents para sa laban na to. MTB together with Coach Dexter ay pinag-iisipang mabuti ang first 2 picks. Fredrin, this time, mula kay King Wise.
Farsa instead ang napili nila. Going back dun sa kanilang mga comforts, alam din naman natin na master nila to. So, Otto, Akai, and of course yung Kaja, open pa rin yan para sa Echo for them to take. Yun nga lang, knowing na pinaprayo din nila dito si Mr. Sanford, what if itong Joy ay talagang i-solidify na nila bilang XP lane. Ngayon, ang makakonfirm natin is mid lane, potentially Eve para sa Echo, or naman yung Kadita na alam natin na ginagamit nila.
Yeah. Kasi pag nagkadita to, ma-force yung Blacklist na iban yung Franco and Kaja. Yeah. Para lang hindi ma-utilize. Pero they went for the Eve pick. May third pick pa ang Blacklist. They can go for the Arlot as an answer doon sa XP lane.
Exactly.
Kasi ni-reveal na rin naman ng Echo yung roles nila. Kumbaga, huwag na nating itago. Huwag na tayo mag-flex-flex pa. Ito na yun.
Pinag-usapan natin to kanina. Ibibigay na ba kay Edward yung mga Action J na type? Mga aggressive type ng heroes.
Ay,
Arlot. There you go.
Pasok.
That's the Edward special ngayong Season 11 ng MPL.
Now, if you're Blacklist International, mas magandang targetin dito yung mga hero potentially para kay Benny Cutie, knowing na potential pa rin yung Harith nandyan at yung tipong carry. Lalong-lalo na with this Joy na parang pwede maging aggressive. Parang pwede ka magkaroon ng isang marksman na pwede yung nakatambay lang. Yung mga tipong mga Beatrix, of course. Hindi sila magiging problemado. So I think mas maganda iban dito yung mga heroes para kay Benny Cutie.
Feeling ko nga, boss, Minsitar eh.
Pwede, Minsitar.
Ay, Franco. Nirespeto pa rin nila yung
Respect
yung
ban.
combo. So, tanggal ang Melissa. Tinatanggalan nila ng hero si Owl.
Yes.
Ngayon, yung Blacklist naman, maaari nga sila mag-Minsitar ban. Pero kasi sobrang lawak ng heroes ni Benny. Yun nga, even though na hindi nagkadita si Sanji, yun pa rin yung tinanggal nila eh. Na-mention natin kaninang Franco and Kaja.
Naku po, pag ito kinuha agad ni Blacklist ni Beatrix, mapapahamak sila. I think ang kailangan nilang i-prio this time is the Oh My Venus Hero instead.
Yeah.
Tipong mga Lolita.
Yeah. Tapos adjust sila.
Mag-a-adjust, of course.
Bakit delikado yung Beatrix pick?
Kasi automatic Minsitar para sa Echo na yon. Alam mo na, pwede mo nang ilista kasi yun yung counter nila. Tapos
Flicker,
may follow-up
King's
na Joy. Diba? Parang ang daming pang-dive mula doon sa side ng Echo.
So, ibig mong sabihin, binibait out ng Echo itong Bea pick na pwedeng manggaling kay Golden Boy.
Ganun na nga.
Mr. Owl, what's the pick?
Brody ata, safe eh.
Carry.
Carry.
Still the same. Still the same. Mincy plus Martis.
Mincy. Minsitar plus
Oh,
Hindi!
bet.
Okay!
Classic.
Yahweh of the Dragon.
Okay!
Hmm.
Sabi ng Echo Wolf, kalma ka lang, Kuya Wolf.
Lolita.
Balik
Matilda.
muna natin, pero
Ay.
okay din!
Airlines.
Maganda yung Matilda.
Okay din, Matilda pick. Sabi ni Oh My B, tinapatan nyo kami ng show. Huli ka ngayon.
No.
Matilda Special, the signature hero ni Oh My Venus.
Pampatanggal ng lagkit. Ito yung pang-save kung sakaling ma-lockdown yung mga members ng Blacklist International na punta dun sa box or mag-go ni Joy. Merong ambulansya, kumbaga na pwedeng lumigtas sa kanila.
Oh, man. Look at Blacklist International na nakafocus ngayon. That was really a hard game for Game 1 and Game number 2. Pero mukhang in the zone naman ang mga Orcas. Talking about reset this time, Santi, paano ba to? Pag ikaw yung nasa side ng Blacklist, paanong mental fortitude ang kailangan mong gawin dito?
Parang ang kailangan mo lang talagang gawin parang i-take into consideration mo yung hero picks ng or ano yung nangyari sa first 2 matches. Pero ilabas mo pa kung ano yung hindi mo pa nailalabas
Kumbaga,
doon sa series na to
Kumbaga, ipakita mo kung sino ka,
Kung
Bert.
sino, magpakilala ka.
Magpakilala ka, Bert.
Magpakilala ka. And
Oo.
dito nga magpapakilala ang Blacklist International kasi bumalik sila sa dati nilang ginagamit madalas doon kay The Queen na kung saan
Matilda.
gamit niya ngayon ang kanyang airline.
Ito ang gusto ko pag-usapan the XP laner, Sanford versus Edward. Binabanatan ngayon ni Sanford si Agent Zero. Wow, grabe naman yon. Sanford getting out, half health.
Kumatlane
Sino ba lamang dito sa tingin nyo? Yung Joy versus Arlot?
Well, lagi madali talagang panigan dito yung Joy kasi para mas madami kang mga moves. So kung usapang lamang mabibigay mo sa Joy doon sa ease of execution. Pero truthfully, hindi naman din talaga malaking kalamangan yun. Kaya lang din, ito yung interesting kay Edward, hindi siya nag-tenacity. So naggamit siya ng unbending wheel, laban type.
Laban. Parang nanggigil na si Abudjing Parang sabi niya kanina pa ako reactive type Gusto ko ako naman yung a-action. Ako naman ang babanat. Especially with this Arlot. You have a lot of true damage and burst output para side ng Blacklist. Yung mga Willow Whips, yung ultimate ni Yue ay nandyan din. Pero ito yung gustong laro din ng Echo Yung para bang sumasapak pabalik yung kalaban nila.
The more na pumapalag, mas magiging ganado din talaga yung isa't isa. And si Wise dito, kahit lumalim siya, hindi niya gaanong minamind. Pero andito pala si Yawi, tsaka nakabang din si Carl Tizzy. Sumari nga nila makuha yung first blood. And the Echo, na-utilize nila or kumbaga na-capitalize nila yung error ng Blacklist International.
Nakailang streams na tayo na nakita mula kay Yahweh na ni-utilize yung Concussive Blast, Jit Kondo combo. At nakakuha nga ulit sila ng first blood.
Yep. Ang kagandahan dito, since si Sanji ay nandun malapit doon sa kill, magle-level 4 siya without having to rotate doon sa may top lane.
Grabe yung ginagawang aggression ng Echo.
The force agad.
Kaso nga lang, si Carl wala na nga yung heavy spin. At aabot ata dito yung follow-up ng Blacklist International pagdating dun sa teamfight. Pero retry na mangyayari. Carl, tusok pa rin na makakakuha. Pero ngayon nag-1v1 na sila. Naghanap sila ng pwedeng kunin. Pero andyan naman yung guiding wind para i-guide si Wise pabalik.
But
Echo, with that turtle take, patuloy lang naaangat yung kalamangan nila.
Akala ko yun na yun para kay Edward at kay Oh My Venus. Final slash sabay lipad ng Reyna. At akala din natin makakaisa na si ang Blacklist dahil umikot na si Carl Tizzy. Anong klaseng confidence yun, Wolf?
Well, alam nila na lalamang sila sa levels with Carl Tizzy that you saw at pati na rin yung idea na hindi pwede bumabad yung Blacklist kahit si Wais, di ba? Dahil dun sa early death ni Wise, hindi siya ganun kakunat at kahit pa pares kayo ng level or at least one level ahead ka, if ultimate pa rin yun, hindi mo pwedeng babaran. Uy!
Pamula kay Yawi, pero
Solo
na-cancel
kill.
siya dito.
Wow!
Na-cancel siya dito, pero nakuha nga ng kill off cam. Doon si Benny Cutie sa may badang ibaba. Pero si Wise naman ngayon, pilit atang papalag. Oh my Venus. Nagamit niya na yung kanyang flicker. Pero andun pa naman yung ipe. Tapos nandun sa dulo. Nasa kanto ng real world manipulation. Kaya hindi na nakawala pa. Iba yung pinapakitang form ngayon ng mga orca.
Ayaw nilang tigilan! Ayaw nilang tigilan! Ang Blacklist International, akala mo cooldown na, magbabak, hindi pa rin. Laban pa rin, parang hindi na nagkukulda ng mga skills nito
At saktong-sakto nandun si Benny Cutie na nanalo doon kay Owl on that level, I think level 4 sila noong time na yun or level 5. Nanalo siya doon sa 1v1 which meant na nung umikot si Oh My Venus or nag-out siya after nung kanyang circling eagle papunta doon sa kanan, nahabol pa rin siya ni Benny Cutie. So extra damage yun. Then Sanji landing yung ultimate niya na perfect na dalaway tinamaan na heavy spin yung isang member, pero napatay pa rin nila doon si Oh My Venus. Smart decisions mula sa Echo once again.
Eto na naman. Babanatan ngayon si
Dito
Wise.
si
Kalahati
Sanford,
ang buhay ni Wise ngayon, ha?
Grabe naman yung tapang dito. Nanggagangster yung Echo.
May buwelo eh, no? May buwelo yung Echo na parang, uy, game ba? Uy, game
Sige,
pala.
game natin to,
Oo.
game
Ang aga
natin.
nung Ice Queen 1 kay Sanji. 4 minutes.
Sobrang bilis nakapag-ipon ng gold upang makabili.
Okay.
Yawi naman dito maaari ma-burst down. May flicker pa siya.
Ooh.
At siya ay makakatakas pa.
Oh, ganun ka-confident ang kupunan ng mga Orcas. Pero pamanatan ngayon si Carl TZ. Carl TZ, ikot palayo.
Wala na naman siyang ikot, ha?
Nanggigigil na ang Reyna. Let's
Oh.
see.
Beautiful final slash pero ready naman yung flicker. Oh, may Venus naman dito nakabangan ng electrifying beats ni Sanford. Walang kawala sa batang makulit at retry na naman ni Carl TZ. Pilit dito magbaback away yung members ng Blacklist International. UN na pilit mag-wings by wings pero may sipa mula kay Yawi at nakaabang na yung barel ni Benny.
Kada minuto may kill tayo na nakikita para sa Echo. Sumusubok ang Blacklist International ng mga attempts. Pero pwede nating sabihin na para bang hindi sync yung mga pasok nila. Sinubukan nila si Yahweh pero napakaraming nangyari. Paka-explain naman sa amin.
Maganda yung final slash na makikita natin mula dito kay Edward, pero instantly nakatakas na din si Sanji. And Carl TZ, timing niya yung kanyang spell, yung kanyang slam para dun sa retry so that he will have extra damage. At tignan mo naman yung sipa, nakahanda na at nakaabang. Yung Renner ultimate mula doon kay Benny na alam natin na sobrang yaman na rin ngayon. With the Blade of Despair, matutunaw talaga nila dito si Wais.
Grabe. Sumubok ang Blacklist International dito na medyo agresibong lineup dahil sa pokes na meron. Pero parang na-outpoke sila. Look at this. Yung mga pokes na ginagawa nila, nakakatakas. Nakakatakas si na Carl.
Lumulusot eh, no?
Wala.
Nadudulas.
Parang walang lockdown dito rin kasi ang Blacklist International. You have a Joy. And this is an Akai na isa lang yung dash na nabubuhay sa kanilang mga attempts.
Kaya nga nahihirapan talaga makakuha ng kill ang Blacklist International. Dahil wala yung hold, pero na-cancel sila lahat bigla dahil lang sa heavy spin ni Carl TZ. Pero hindi pa rin nag-overextend basta-basta. Actually, nag-overextend nga yung Echo.
my God.
Pero alam nila yung kapasidad kung gaano sila katagal pwede magstay at kung kailan sila magmamamba out.
Oh, it's the same story as game 1 and game number 2. It's about the attack. The best attack is your way to victory. It's about the mechanics. Let's look at the items. Any specific items this time?
Blade of Despair, tapos papalapit na sa more penetration damage ito si Betrix, which means na yung alley-oop, yung sipa na delivery mula kay Yawi ay automatic makakuha sila ng kills. And makikita din natin dito na nag-casual defense items pareha si Sanford at si Yawi to account for dun sa mixture ng damage ng Blacklist International. By the way, yung kaguluhan na nangyari sa may gitna na push yung Echo!
Grabe yung ginawa nila dito. Knock up, pero may follow-up naman si Yue dito. Prevented airstrike, but again, Carl TZ pa rin ang mamamayagpag pagdating dun sa retrihan. Tapos makukuha niya yung kill on twice. Naipit naman dito si The Queen sa may bandang gitna. At si Edward ay habulin pa. Owl
my
dito,
God.
sobrang low na. Si Sanji nakaabang pa. Benny Cutie for the final kill dito sa Echo. Pero si Edward hindi ata napapakawalan. Mukhang gusto lang kumuha ng wipeout. Pero makakatakas nga ba? Edward dito, mapapa-flicker pa atras. Binalikan niya si Benny Cutie. Pero ngayon, ang tanong, makakatakas pa ba? Pero hindi! 4 laban sa isa. Hindi na talaga kinaya.
Ang Pasay City ay unti-unti nang nagiging the highlight city mula sa mga Orcas. Ang daming mga nahuhuli at hindi tumatapos. Hindi natatapos ang laban.
You have to say na maganda naman sana yung start para doon sa Blacklist pero wala silang enough na damage at matagal din nila bago na patumba doon si Yawi. Nakakasive blast ngayon, hindi siya naka-tenacity. So in a way, parang pwedeng siya para siya Blacklist. Kaso nga lang, yung spacing at yung aggression ni Sanji, tignan mo naman!
Ito yung literal mapapasubra ka naman.
Wala talagang pahinga yung
Carl!
kanyang real-world manipulation. Tapos naipit pa nila din si Edward. Dumulas man pero nakaabang yung pagpitik ng gatilyo at rinig mo ang hakbang mula dito sa mga Orca.
Oh my, kailan ba natin makikita dito yung ube timings dahil sabi dito ng Echo, wawaraki namin ang ube dahil hindi nila pinagpapahinga ang Blacklist International. Hindi rin naman nakakakuha ng magandang farm si Owl dahil tuloy-tuloy ang aggression ng Echo.
Glowing and Ice Queen 1 available para kay Sanji. Yung nakita niyo yung combo niya, 'di ba? Parang yung crystal muna, yung may
si
snow,
Yawi.
tapos
Si Yawi
gagamitin
delikado,
yung
si
ulti.
Owl!
Oy!
Nagkamali ata siya ng binisita dito pero hindi naman naipasa ni Yawi yung tamang angulo. Feathered airstrike, siya pa ang napunish. Medyo napasama ang pagpasok ng Echo doon. Mahahabol din dito si Sanji. Nag-all-in na ang Blacklist International. Forced to use sarili word manipulation para lang dun sa extra shield. Sanford naman nakaabang. Ang call ng Echo. Palagad natin to. Dalawa ang naipit. The Queen at si Zero. Pero ngayon, unstoppable na ang bagyo. At tuloy pa rin sila.
Parang All-Star Weekend na dire-diretso ang pag-shoot ng mga bola. Dire-diretso ang mga pass break. It's about the Express. Echo Express is here.
House of Highlights yan ng una sa mga na-nickname natin doon sa Echo at yung pinapakita nga nila kabila ng mga gandang mga plays. Sabihin natin yung kay Yawi, wala kasi siyang flicker doon so hindi siya maka-TikTok play. Pero yung kaguluhan na nangyari na yun, na pag-go niya kay Owl, napakomit doon si Sanji, napaganda pa rin para sa Echo dahil naging sulit yung talon ni Cartesi na nakaipit ang dalawa.
Hala, hindi pa tapos. Kakatapos mo lang mag-explain, Wolf, laban na agad.
Naghahanap talaga sila ng gulo dahil palagi nilang ginagamit yung mga ultimates na nag-cooldown.
Sanji!
Word manipulation, may ipit na naman yung tatlong miyembro ng Blacklist International. Matitake down nila dito si Edward pero may feathered airstrike for the clapback. Pero triple kill na ang bagyo. Mukhang signal number 5 na to.
Oh my, napakabilis pa. And look at the recalls. Benny Cutie, ang bagyo ay dumediretso na papuntang base ng Blacklist International. Ano ba tong MLBB na napapanood natin? Turbo mode ba to?
Turbo mode!
Para naka-times 2 eh.
Iba ang pinapakita ngayon ng Echo, lalong-lalo na dun sa mga naunang rotations nila. And who would have thought na etong si Cartesi na may utility jungler ay pwedeng laruin ng ganito ka-agresibo. And Echo taking advantage no sa idea na walang Franco or walang Kaja this particular game. Nakuha agad nila yung joy. Walang pang-lockdown.
Okay.
Napakaganda final slash mula dito kay
Hala.
Edward. Cartesi matitake down na nila finally. Pero ngayon si Sanford naman ay napa-electrifying beats kaya sobrang bilis. Walang tinamaan sa Appraiser's Wrath pero successful ang Blacklist International sa kanilang defense.
Hinahanap natin para sa Blacklist International play-making ultimates. Edward utilizing yung Arlot. Napakabilis ng final slash. Hindi man lang nakareact si...
Oh my God.
What?
Wala, Wolf. Hindi ka na pinag-e-explain. Hindi ka na pinag-e-explain, Wolf. Kailangan mo na ring bilisan. Nag-a-agree ako sa'yo. Yun na sana. Si Edward, si Agent Zero na sana.
Let's look at that once again. Benny Cutie nilinya.
Oh my
At
God.
nakaabang may nakalatag kasi.
Back!
Tapos may apoy.
Grabe naman yun.
From downtown, Benny!
From the logo shot. Mula dito sa Echo. Kung akala nyo puro lang kami dakdak, kaya din namin trumes.
Min, half court nga tayo eh.
Court.
Ang layo nun eh.
Max
Parang
distance.
sinetapan muna eh.
Oh my G. Again, going back to Agent Zero. Nag-slash na naman siya. Sumusubok si Edward,
ang kate.
sumabay. Sumusubok siyang sumabay, pero... Wolf,
Hot.
Sandy, 10K gold lead.
Hot hands ngayon si Benny. Tumatama yung kanyang mga sniper shots. At dahil dun sa lead na meron dito yung Echo, kailangan i-take note na Heptasis, Blade of Despair, Malefic, and Hunter Strike. So, dahil dun sa mga passive na meron kang pwedeng i-combo with your spells, nakita nyo naman eh, si Oh My Venus nung tinamaan half HP and that's supposed to be a roam na naka-dominance ice. Pero etong si Yue, pati etong si Owl, hindi pwede talagang tamaan ng ligaw na bala ni Benny. Surely nakita nyo naman kung gaano ka kaya na i-100 to 0
Oo.
yung mga heroes ng ganun kadali.
Ito yung mga type ng game na kung nanonood ka ngayon sa mga bahay nyo, marirealize mo na,
Oh, 3K!
Sakit, 3K. Marirealize mo na bawal na ba ako mag-slow hands? Kailangan ko ba mag-pass hands? Hindi na ako pwedeng dumino hands dito.
Yeah, yung tingin nakakatakot, pwedeng gawin kasi ni Sanji since may Ice Queen 1 na siya tapos may apoy. Pwede niyang ilatag na lang yung Nova tapos kasi dahil may slow yun, tapos may Ice Queen 1 pa, parang extra yun para kay Benny.
Na mas easy target.
Easy target.
Kasi mabagal eh.
Ito yung mga type ng plays na ginagawa ng Echo na kulang yung pinipindot. Yung tipong pag-jet condo mo, alt-tab ka, TikTok. Para lahat ng pinipindot mo, talagang damang-dama mo.
Yung nag-check ng item sa shop kahit wala namang bibilin.
Kahit wala namang bibili, pintot ng shop. Ganon kakulang ang pinipindot ng mga Orcas. The question is, what is the plan for Blacklist International? They have the Parsa, the spam. They have Edward for the counter-initiate. Nandyan din si King Wise. Kaya bang kumapit dito ng mga agents?
Kailangan nilang sumigaw na defense.
Defense.
Yun na dapat yung sigaw eh. Kasi defense is the best offense na madalas ginagawa ng Blacklist
Tama.
for what? 2 years in a row? 2 to 3 years?
Kaso nga lang, offense daw, sabi ni Yawi. Pasa kaagad mula doon kay The Queen. And si Wise naman, mapapap yung immortality.
Sanford!
Owl naman dito, magsisimil Quago na talagang aabutin hanggang sa dulo. And yung Echo ay kukuha na naman ng isa. Match point na!
The speedsters are here. Kachow! Sabi ng Echo.
Hindi na pinagalaw ng Echo. Benny Cutie naman ngayon ang nagpakitang gilas. Masyado na tayong tahimik about Benny Cutie. This game, solo kill doon kay Owl, winning that laning stage. Then eventually, pagkakawa niyo ng kill kay Owl, nagdudod si Omay Venus para i-collect na lang niya yung kill. Napalaw niya. And after the flicker, si Sanji naman yung tumapos.
Wow.
Big commendation kay Sanji again in this game. Nakakuha agad ng Ice Queen 1 and Boots by around 4 minutes 20 seconds. Tapos si Benny, 11, 1, and 7 sa game na to.
Hot hands.
Hot
Alam mo yung
hands.
mapapashish ka na lang talaga.
No.
Tapos mapapaganon ka na lang kasi it's been a while. It's really been a while since nakakita tayo ng action talaga na laban. And the Blacklist International, they did their best. They did their best para tapatan to. But man, those setups, nagsubok si Edward, kumounter ko with the slashes. Sinubukan niyang i-punish yung mga pasok ni Yawi, ni Carl. Pero hindi enough para makuha nila yung damage output na gusto nila. Now, if you're Blacklist, napakahirap na tanong. Paano ka makaka-comeback?
Ang hirap ng sitwasyon nila ngayon sa totoo lang. Kasi isa na lang ang kailangan na Echo para tanghaling kampiyon. And based doon sa first 3 games na naipanalo nila, sobrang linis nga talaga ng kanilang mga galaw na parang wala nga talagang titigil.
Yep.
Pero for Blacklist International, ito yung perfect chance na kumbaga ilabas pa nila kung ano yung meron, kung what's left para doon sa kanilang mga strategiya.
Ito yung literal na ang lala, Echo Express, pinakita para sa laban na to. Midnight and Miko, paki-explain mo na sa amin ang analysis.
Sanford, Benny, Sanji, Cortese, and Yawi. They are styling on Blacklist International. It's happening again midnight.
Man, the Filipino casters have said it. Holy sheesh.
Wow.
It was, I would say, an outclass and an outdraft. A mix of both. And, you know, it has to start with the ideology again of Echo. They just kept on running and running and running against Blacklist International. We mentioned earlier, well, we did discuss earlier behind the cameras that Blacklist, they don't have any answers against this first pick Joy. And this was something that was done against them yesterday when they were fighting against RSG. And Echo, they did have the Beatrix once again in this game, which propelled them towards the mid-game success that they had on game number 2. And it feels like, again, I have to say this, I have to be brutally honest. It seems like Echo has figured out Blacklist International.
It really does, right? I mean, if you look at the drafts as well, it feels like for Blacklist International, they're more concerned of team synergy and how the composition actually works together than they are of the winning matchups. That's ultimately giving Echo so much of an upper edge in the early game through these lanes. Beatrix versus carry, Owl. Every single game on the carry Beatrix, we've seen it 2 games now. It's been the Beatrix just heavily forcing him out of lane. Not even just using the lead to go for a siege. No, he's actually utilizing the wave manipulation to bully the carry out, to get a 2,000, 1,000 gold lead on the board in the start of the game against that carry.
Yeah, you know, I'm a jungler player. I know jungle matchups. It's Akai versus Predrin. We saw this from Setsui. It is a great answer versus the Predrin against objectives because you do have that heavy spin, but you also mentioned that there is a factor between the Beatrix and carry matchup.
It's just super hard already, right? And if you take into account the fact that Echo picked up that Cho and even the Akai, so much more CC, that kind of forces the carry to go for Purify. We mentioned it, he needs to go for the Flicker, and that he did. He went for the Flicker, but even then, it was not enough. They had so much mobility on Echo. It wasn't a one-dimensional draft. Yawi was able to constantly find those crazy G Kundos, and at this point, how how do you stop this man, right? You play with a lot of anti-CC, maybe a Purify, a few.
Well, the thing is, even with the Purify, it didn't feel like Blacklist had enough tools against Echo, because when we saw these skirmishes earlier, the team fights, like how Echo addressed Blacklist OB composition is just overload them with highlights, you know? Every targets on the side of Blacklist International have individual marks on them. Sanford has his own target, Cartesi has his own target, Sanji has his own target, and of course, Benicuri, well, he's targeting everybody on the side of Blacklist International, especially when he targeted Owl inside the base. He threaded 2 heroes to get a snipe onto Owl.
Threaded the needle on a Beatrix, and it's not even a signature pick, right? Benicuri absolutely popping off, but what I do want to mention is the fact that Echo played against the Ube to perfection. You mentioned a bit of it, but I really want to emphasize that top lane play where usually you don't want to do that against Blacklist. You do not want to go 1 by 1, but they went in 1 by 1. They all just baited out resources, distracted, and gave their main 2 carries, Sanford and Benny, in that particular matchup, in that top lane skirmish, so much room to play. Because Sanji was the bait. You don't usually see this, but Echo, they're able to do it.
He was like, okay, I can turn. I have read word manipulation. I have shields. I have CC immunity. What do you have? You have damage on carry? Okay, I'll kill the carry. He turned, and after that, Echo was able to find an immaculate team fight that set him up for success. Again, the pin down from Cartesi, 2 heroes against Blacklist, and he does this constantly, even during the Turtle and Lord fights. The heavy spin is a valuable resource on the side of Echo because it allows you to basically reposition your heroes, reset the fight, and also control the movements of Blacklist International. This is the concept of displacement. You know, having this on the side of Echo alongside an Eve and a Joy, it's hard to counter that if you're a Blacklist because you only have 1 save, and that is on the Mathilda. And even the Mathilda was not able to save a lot of heroes on this matchup because there is that follow-up snipe coming out from the Benicuri.
What's strange as well is the fact that Blacklist International are just leaning onto, in my opinion, their default, their template here. They're not really getting creative at all. And that creativity was really why they were able to make it up into the upper brackets. First though, your MVP, it's Sanji for game number 3. And yeah, he played the Eve as a distraction in that top lane. He was the tank, man.
Yeah. He was like, okay, my highlights, it's not gonna be kills. It's gonna be setups. Like the amount of setups that I can bring for Echo, because I have 4 playmaking heroes. I am not gonna be greedy. I can set up for kills. I can turn team fights around because the thing is, Cartesi, when he uses that heavy spin, that's the last resource for a team fight. But if we use the real world manipulation first, how does Blacklist fight? How do they come into us? There's no possible way for Blacklist to fight into Echo with that setup without having to commit a lot of resource. And again, the carry, he seems too passive. Without the flicker, it feels like Blacklist cannot fight 5v5 at all against this lineup.
We kind of mentioned this as well while we were discussing in the game there. Sanji on the Eve, very dynamic. What enables him to be able to make these kind of plays happen, the adaptive maneuvers, right? Whether he uses the ultimate first or whether he waits till the end to deal damage. That's just basic mechanics, you gotta say it. Mechanical displays were shown off the entire game. From Cartesi winning the 50-50 retry battles, to them getting so many pin downs, to the crazy Benicuri snipe that threaded the needle. It was just Echo styling and outplaying Blacklist International.
Yeah, just looking at it, the team fights that Echo pulled off against Blacklist International, they were really patient. And the amount of slows that is coming out from the Eve alongside the Ice Queen 1 really punishes the Fredrin pick of Blacklist International. And Wise didn't have a good game here. It's not because of the playstyle, but because of the genius behind the ideology of the clashes from Echo. And we see Blacklist International try to retaliate, but where's the damage? Where is the scaling power of the carry when you have this amplified presence coming out from the Beatrix, which just steamrolls over your lineup? And even if you do find that pickup on the Beatrix, again, there is a lot of re-engage factor coming out from Echo. Blacklist did, however, find some few kills on the bottom lane, but Yaoi was always consistently finding good pickoffs with a kick flicker, and this was the team fight that we were talking about earlier. The pin down from Cartesi setting up the success here for Echo, and this was allowed by the setup from Sanji's Eve.
a few times, right? This happened, and again, you can see the Eve just using the real-world manipulation as, you know, the last sort of damage here to actually enable Benny Cutie to get that triple kill, and this is it.
There you go.
The needle thread from Benny. And Sanji, the coordination from this team, at this point, I don't even think it's them communicating. It's just them understanding what they want to do. It's like, got telepathy, man.
Well, you know what? We have a term for that. It's called the House of Highlights. You know,
Ooh.
Echo are used to doing so many highlights of their own. We saw so many from a single team fight. Like, yes, Blacklist finds a kill, but 4 heroes looks for highlights of their own.
Exactly, and again, the systematic playstyle that Blacklist International are trying to utilize here isn't working. They need to, in my opinion, again, stay creative, utilize what made them so great to get into the upper bracket finals, to get into the grand finals, and it is with Edward playing the winning matchup. Get Edward a winning matchup and play for Edward. He will be able